Hello, my name is Kazu. Nice to meet you. This is part of my 365-day daily challenge speaking English for 30 minutes straight using tough style questions. No script, just spontaneous answers, just like the real exam. Let's get started. Yes, today I woke up at like 9:30. Yeah, which is really late. So maybe, tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm gonna wake up at 5 a.m. and do my morning routine. Today I went to art museum to see the works of Mutok. Yeah, Lom Muek. Yeah, Lom Muek. Today I went to Mori Art Museum to see the works of Lom Muek. Rom Muek. His works are the real things, like for example a mother who is having plastic bag with full of uh, daily product, like he is a kind of figure, but sometimes smaller than real, but sometimes very bigger than real, but they are so real as though it's almost they almost start moving, as if they almost start moving. So that real, it's yeah, they were that real. And I was surprised he just copied the real things, but the it's not just copying. He really knows, the face expressions and the structure of our bodies, everything. So it's so real. They are so real. And he can, you know, he can squeeze and expand as he likes. Yeah, so I reconfirmed real things are good, you know? Like sometimes we are satisfied with just the images, like the pictures of some real things. But real is real. Like we always listen to music using, phones or just the data. So we rarely listen to real performance, but the real cannot lose anything. Yeah, anything can win, anything can beat a real thing. So I reconfirmed that fact. Yeah, I'm glad to go there. I recommend you. I recommend you should go to see his works if you have a chance. Mm. Today I went to the Morin Art Museum to see the works of Ron Mueck. His works look his works look incredibly realistic. For example, one of them shows a mother carrying a plastic bag full of everyday items. But her face was really sad. And we can know that that is great. That's not usual. He exactly he exactly express humans face expressions to in the figures. Sculptures, yeah, they are sculptures of human figures, but sometimes they are smaller than life size, and sometimes they are much larger than life size. Life size, nice, life size. Okay, they are sculpture of human figures. They are sculptures of human figures, but sometimes they are smaller than life size, and sometimes they are much bigger than life size. Life size. My favorite work of his was a big woman lying in bed. I love that work. Actually, the name was not, yeah, was different. I forgot the exact name. actual name. Anyway, but they are so realistic that they look as if they could start moving at any moment. As if they could start moving at any moment. They are so realistic that they look as if they look as if they could start moving at any moment. I feel fatigue. They were that realistic, and I was really surprised at first. It may look he's simply copying real people, but it's not just copying. Yeah, like we sometimes purchase a figure of some, imaginable character, like hero or Pokemon, or but that's not like that. It's he, yeah, he doesn't copy simply. He doesn't copy real people simply. He copy everything, everything that we don't understand. He understands. Because we can sympathize, they can understand their feeling, the figure's feeling, the sculpture's feeling, because of their expressions. So that's amazing, you know. They were that realistic, and I was really surprised at first. It may look like he's simply copying real people, but it is not just copying. He really understands facial expression, the sculpture of the human body, and everything in between. The structure of the human body and everything in between. That's why his works feel so real. His works feel so real. He can shrink or enlarge the human body however he wants. He can shrink or enlarge the human body however he wants. So it reminded me again how powerful real things can be. Shrink and enlarge. So it reminded me again. So it reminded me again how powerful real things can be. Sometimes you are satisfied with the images or photos of real things, but the real thing is still different. But the real thing is still different. For example, we usually listen to music on our phones or through digital files. We usually listen to music on our phones or through digital files. But listening to a live performance in person is completely different. Live performance in person is completely different. Today I went to the Mori Art Museum to see the works of Rom Mueck. His works look incredibly realistic. For example, one of them shows a mother sculpture carrying a plastic bag with full of everyday items, They are sculptures of human beings. Sometimes they are smaller than life size, and sometimes they are bigger, much bigger than life size. They are so realistic. But they are so realistic. That they look as if they could start moving at any moment. This is not, I'm not too flattering. I felt it the exact same feeling in front of the work because it was too real. They were that realistic. And I was really surprised. It may look like he is simply copying human bodies, real people, but it's different. It's not just copying. He really understands facial expressions and what creates our facial expression. He understands what creates, what makes, what is the ingredient of our facial expressions. That's why he can copy. Like, he really understands that we don't understand, because naturally we can do that, but he knows everything. Like, why when we are sad, like, why our faces move like that way. He knows how our faces go that way. That's why he can copy. He can, express emotions to his works. And I don't know why he can understand. Maybe he, studies a lot, or maybe he, learned a lot, and I don't know, but he's a genius. Yeah, I want to be a genius. I want to be, like him. Sometimes I want to become an artist, as usual, when after I watch something great works, I always think like this. I want to be like him, or like her, or like them. Anyway, but they're so realistic that they look as if they could start moving at any moment. They were the realistic, and I was really surprised. At first, it may look like he is simply copying real people, but it's not just copying. He really understands facial expressions. The structure of the human body. Everything, like muscles, bones, wrinkles, blood vessels, everything. or just he copied completely. I don't know. And the size matters. So, like through the images, you cannot feel the size of it. Only way you can feel the size, maybe you must see the real things, real his works. That's the only way. So that's why I was really moved. Yeah. And you know, big things are king, I guess. Like when I went to the university, when I went to the United States, you know, American continent is huge, bigger than much bigger than you know Japan. So there are a lot of huge natural park or huge natural, the trough or cliff nature, much bigger nature in the US. And I was overwhelmed when I saw them. Like you can see those huge nature things while driving through the Continental. I like that. I like that. I've never felt like that. I've never felt like that in Japan. Yeah, anyway, he really understands facial expression, the structure of human bodies, and everything in between. Everything in between. That is why his works feel so surreal. He can shrink or enlarge human body however he wants. So it reminded me again how powerful real thing real things can be. So it reminded me again how powerful real things can be. Sometimes we are satisfied with just images or photos of real things, but it reminded me again how powerful real things can be. But the real things is still different. For example, we usually listen to music on our phones. For example, we usually listen to music on our phones or through digital files. But listening to a live performance in person is completely different. So something like that. So like that, I think real things, his works, his real works, or powerful. So I will recommend you should go to see that. I recommend you should go see them. If you have a chance. So let's review. the last challenge, I had plans to meet a friend of mine. Yeah, yesterday. I had plans to meet a friend of mine in Kokubunji. So we had lunch and chatted. We had a chat. We had lunch and a chat. At least I was able to make use of the day. So I was supposed to wake up at 5 a.m. but I couldn't. And I really wanna make waking up at 5 a.m. a habit. Yes. And I was talking about the presentation I gave in the advanced English speaking class. As I said. As I said in the last challenge, the professor in my advanced English class recorded my presentation. If I ask him, he will probably give me. If I ask him, he will probably give me the video of my presentation. So I'm going to do that. I want to review my presentation because it will be really good for memorizing useful expressions. In class, we use a textbook and follow its structure. So in the class, we use a textbook and follow its structure. We are working on Unit 1, and in the last part of the unit, we had to give a presentation about the reliability of a specific news source. Then I chose newspapers from general news sources. Yeah, let me give the presentation quickly. So I chose newspapers from general news sources. This is because I think newspapers are one of the most reliable news sources. So in the textbook, like we needed to follow its structure, and the textbook said, we must decide 4 questions to evaluate the reliability of the news source, and ask those 4 questions to 3 respondents. And one of those 4 questions, the textbook already decided one of them. The first question was how trustworthiness. So the question was, how trustworthy is the news from the news source? So other three questions we had to decide. We had to make. So the second question was accuracy. How accurate is the information? And the third was neutrality. How unbiased is the reporting? And the fourth, standalone credibility. Like, would you believe it without checking other sources? And the three respondents, my three respondents were, the first one was a university student. He is a male friend of mine in his early 20s. He rarely reads newspapers. And the second respondent was my father, and he is a man in his 60s. He is a long-time newspaper reader. The third respondent was generative AI. More specifically, it was Claude AI. It may be controversial whether we can treat generative AI as a respondent. However, in previous lessons, we talked about how cutting-edge technology can be used to create fake news or artificial content. So that's why I think I should ask generative AI as well. Anyway, so I asked for questions to those respondents. なんだっけ? Long story short, long story short. The long story short, so sorry, I haven't mentioned this rule. So I asked for questions to those three respondents, and I asked them to score each score each question from 1 to 10. And I forgot each result. I forgot each result of each person. But there was a big gap between accuracy and neutrality. That was 2.7 points. So it means newspapers may be generally reliable when it comes to factual information. However, they may not always be completely neutral. So,なんだっけ? So my conclusion is that the source you choose shapes the story you get. The story you get, the source you choose, the source you choose shapes the story you get. The source you choose. The source you choose shapes the story you get. So it means maybe the facts in newspapers are relatively reliable, but there are big differences between newspaper companies. Especially in their views and opinions about the facts. So my personal opinion is that you need to be careful about how we read newspapers. First, when we read newspapers, we should separate facts from opinions on the article. And then you should think about our own opinion on the topic. By doing this, we can use newspapers in a more reliable and more reliable and balanced way. Thank you.